Clayton Kershaw Rehab 2.0 begins today. Rumors be a-flying about the Clippers trying to rebuild on the fly, and the Lakers wave the white flag on a major roster upgrade. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. And so it is July 3rd, 2024. July 3rd in the Midwest for me includes thunderstorms, awesome summer, endless summer out in the Midwest. And that's why I enjoy reminding myself I'm from LA. Do you like being in the know about LA sports? Well, if you do, click the like button. Click the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist, and by all means comment. Now, before we go through the news and notes and look at the scoreboard, Dodgers, Teoscar Hernandez walks it off with an RBI single in a 6-5 victory over Arizona. Shohei Ohtani hit his 27th home run of the year. And by the way, the Sparks are now tied for the worst record in the WNBA after their 82-80 loss to Washington last night. Yikes. Meanwhile, today, the Diamondbacks are still in town to play the Dodgers at 7. Gavin Stone is 9-2 with a 2.73 ERA. Christian Mena makes his major league debut. And what do you say we get to the news? Clayton Kershaw is going to throw a bullpen session today, hoping to get his rehabilitation back on track. He happy talked having his return from shoulder surgery derailed last week due to soreness. No big deal. Quote, just some old man shoulder. There's some wear and tear in there, but nothing new. I feel like the upward trajectory has been pretty steady up to this point, unquote. Now, there is a little bit of truth to this. You know, if you recall, Kershaw had an MRI on the shoulder last week, and that confirmed that there was no new damage to the shoulder. He was given some shots to relieve soreness. Having said that, the original timeline of having him back around the All-Star break, we have no idea when he's coming back now. And the Dodgers, to be honest with you, glad they won last night, of course, but they're just treading water right now. Because in case you haven't noticed, the rotation that they're throwing out there right now, if you took the names off the jerseys, it seems to be built a lot like the rotation last year, which honestly wasn't that great. You have one vet that you know you can rely on, you hope you can rely on, and then you surround him with a bunch of randos and dudes just up from the minors. If you recall, that's how the rotation pretty much looked. And then everybody lights candles hoping for Walker Buehler to return in time for the playoffs. We were doing that last year as well. By the way, that trusted vet this year isn't Kershaw, obviously. It's Tyler Glasnow. And here's something that might make your blood run a little cold about Glasnow. He is about, 2-3 starts away from passing his career high in innings pitched for a season. The most he's ever gone is 120. So either he is the only pitcher in recent Dodgers history to come here and actually get healthier, or the Dodgers are on borrowed time for yet another major explosion on their pitching staff. Yeah, these guys on the injured list can't come back soon enough. Now, as for the other pitchers who are currently injured, I mentioned Buehler. Dave Roberts told the LA Times that Buehler's hip hasn't been giving him issues, so they're trying to reduce the strain on his hip by refining his delivery. And yet they're doing that out in Florida. That's odd. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto has not even started throwing again, according to Roberts. But at least the pitcher is pain-free. So, there is that. But I must tell you, throw it all into the blender. Pretty confusing times on the Dodgers pitching staff. We have to be real about that. The Athletic is reporting that Denver wants to trade for Clippers backup guard, the one-time Mr. Triple-Double, Russell Westbrook. Nikola Jokic and DeAndre Jordan have apparently been lobbying the Nuggets front office to make a deal. Now, even if the Clippers can't reach an agreement with Denver on a trade, there is the distinct possibility that Westbrook could just straight up get cut, and the Nuggets sign him anyway. And honestly, that's not going to be difficult for Denver. They're under the salary cap. If Westbrook stays with the Clippers, he'll make less than $4 million. Denver can sign him for that. If the idea of letting Westbrook go surprises you, because he is, after all, beloved by the players, there's no question about that, the Clippers have already signed Chris Dunn, who had a fine run with a terrible Utah team. In other words, they signed a backup point guard, and now they have multiple backup point guards on the roster. Dunn is actually way better on defense than Westbrook, and he will be legitimately happy at backup no matter what. Westbrook is not like taking one for the team in order to do it. The LA Times is also reporting that the Clippers are looking into signing free agent forward Miles Bridges, who averaged 21 points per game last year in Charlotte. The move, if it happens, would be a sign and trade. And the Times is suggesting that the names that could go back to Charlotte would be Norman Powell and Terrence Mann. That would sting. But yeah, you're trying to do as best as you can now that you no longer have Paul George in the fold. This should be bigger news. In the grand scheme of things, LeBron James deciding his future would in fact be big news. If you remember the decision back in the day, ESPN hyped that dopey little announcement for 24 hours. There was a ticker on the screen, if you remember that, off in the corner. Do you remember? It's more like the narcissism than the decision. But nobody in this case thought seriously that James was going to leave the Lakers. The talk was about James possibly taking a pay cut in order for the Lakers to sign a player that could significantly improve the roster. Well, the Lakers just sat there and watched all these other players go elsewhere. And so this morning it was announced that James is going to take the money. This is according to The Athletic as well, and ESPN. 2 years, $104 million is the number that's being bandied about. Now, if true, there's a catch. If true, that contract would take the Lakers over the so-called second apron of the salary cap by a little more than $1 million, which would extremely restrict them from making transactions on additional players in the future. Now, this is why LeBron hasn't actually signed the contract. They've agreed to it. They haven't actually signed it because they're still talking about that $1 million, that fleeting possibility, that glimmer of hope that a third major upgrade could be on the horizon. Having said that, if you look at things from a cold-hearted business choice, I'm not even sure I have much of a problem with him taking the Lakers over the second apron. Here's why. From a cold-hearted money choice, James has been extremely fruitful for the Lakers. He's only got him one championship. I totally recognize that. But he's became the NBA's all-time leading scorer in Lakers colors. He's not really slowing down. He's averaged 27 points per game in his 6 years as a Laker. We would hope he would keep them under the second apron. It's only $1 million, right? I hate saying that. I don't have $1 million. But for somebody like LeBron James, who's worth more than $1 billion, does he need the extra million, right? So, agreed in principle, hasn't signed it. We'll just see if the Lakers get limited or not. Bronny James, meanwhile, LeBron's son, was introduced to the scribes yesterday holding up his new Lakers jersey, and everybody on the dais was quick to say nepotism did not play a role in drafting LeBron James's son. You don't believe that, do you? You really don't. I don't know anybody who would. Look, I would be possibly inclined to agree with that if both Lakers draft picks were there, but the guy that they took in the first round, Dalton Knecht, Mr. Instant Offense, the guy who could actually get playing time this year, nobody noticed he was there. ESPN, they didn't care. They didn't mention it. Neither did Fox Sports. Neither did CBS. I didn't see anything in The Athletic saying Dalton Knecht was there either. Nobody told us the poor bastard, the first round draft pick who actually can score, was there. It was just wall-to-wall Bronny James. That was it. But nepotism didn't play a role. Okay. I will say this. Credit to the LA Times for asking who the white guy in the corner was. That was Dalton Knecht. I must confess, I have skepticism, though, about Bronny James that's been growing. I'm not trying to say I'm a hater. Glad he's alive, right? But even when he was in high school, all we were told about Bronny James was, wow, what a great kid. I mean, he went from teaching the elders in ancient Jerusalem straight to writing the Magna Carta and then to the basketball court to embrace his true destiny. That's what we heard about Bronny James in high school, and all of which is fine. But when you're being told, when we're being told that much about him, he better be coming off as the nicest guy possible, and he's already committed his first faux pas as a pro. This is what he said in the press conference. I feel like I've been given an opportunity to showcase what I can really do because I wasn't given that much of an opportunity at USC, unquote. Okay, now time out there, Val. Time out. This is not cool. Clowning USC for not playing you is not cool. I do not want to be too big of a jerk about this. But there was a reason, there were multiple reasons, that you were not given much of an opportunity at USC. First of all, not that it's important or anything, but you almost died. Hi. You almost died. Maybe that might have kept the coach from throwing you out on the court, right? Maybe you thought you would rise from the crypt after 3 days to dunk on us all. But I'm here to tell you, there are two things I study a lot outside of sports. I study the Bible and I study dead. You're not Jesus, and dead is almost undefeated. We don't need you collapsing on the court and having the training staff running out with paddles screaming clear. We don't need that. There was a reason you were not given playing time at USC that go beyond you being an undersized guard, I might add. Not given the opportunity at USC. Another day has come and gone in NBA free agency, and it's become apparent the Lakers aren't likely to make a big splash. There's always talk about winning the offseason. Did the Lakers lose the offseason? I'm not totally sold on that. To be clear, I don't like their offseason. But many teams fared much worse than the Lakers. Golden State and Denver definitely come to mind. The reason I can't wait for NFL training camps to open is because we will have a reduced list, a reduced batch of time-killing list stories on CBSSports.com. And we've mentioned it before. They're writing reams of pointless lists to pass the time from the end of the Super Bowl up to preseason. Who are the 10 worst punters? What are the 10 most woke end zone messages? What are the 10 touchdown celebrations that look most like a sex tape? It never ends with CBS and their lists. So CBS came out with another one, the top 20 interior offensive linemen, because they have to write something. But I will say that Rams guard Kevin Dotson ranks 13th. Okay. They think of him as an ideal fit in Sean McVay's scheme, mastering how to handle the A and B gaps. Now, you may call it fitting players to a scheme, which certainly helps. But I think it's been understood that the Rams' offensive line is going to be what leads them this year. We know about Matthew Stafford. We know about Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. But the Rams totally go nowhere if Stafford gets killed, and that's on the offensive line. If you remember what that line looked like 2 seasons ago, had you ever heard of a bruised spine? I hadn't. The Rams season was toast once Stafford kept getting hit like that. So 2 years later, Brandon Thorne, who runs an offensive line newsletter called Trench Warfare, thinks the Rams have the most physically imposing line in the league. Quote, I think this offensive line could be very good. That really starts with the interior offensive line, which could be one of the 5 best in the league. There's a little bit of projection there with Steve Avila moving to center. But you have one of the biggest centers in the NFL, which is kind of cool, especially for what they want to do, unquote. Meanwhile, along the defensive front, tackle Braden Fisk is trying to downplay the adjustment to the pros without sounding like there's no learning curve. Quote, I think I have a lot of room to grow. I think my ceiling is even higher than I thought it was coming out of college. Once you get out here and work with the pros, you see where you can elevate your game to. You're kind of comparing it to guys around you. I just see that the ceiling is even higher than I think I even realized it would. Meanwhile, finally over at USC football, ESPN has his college football analyst who looks like, I don't know, that old guy puppet that Jeff Dunham has for his ventriloquist act. And last week, said ESPN octogenarian, he goes on the air to yell at the clouds that Lincoln Riley sucks. Quote, it's over, unquote, the old fart said. Now CBS begs to differ. There's another batch of rankings. They think Riley is the 3rd best coach in the Big Ten. Why? Oh, I don't know. 4 conference titles in 7 years as a head coach. Played for a 5th conference title that rookie year over at USC. Dude's been to the college football playoff 3 times. He's developed 3 Heisman winners. So we can either let history be our guide, or we can trust the words of a Bitterman with a colostomy bag. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Are you optimistic about Clayton Kershaw? Are you optimistic about the Clippers trying a quick rebuild? Or are you, gee, we got LeBron James back, but what else when it comes to the Lakers? And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Cortel Queso production. Take care.